Patch 1.49 just dropped on us, and Blizzard dropped a huge bombshell banning Reaper, Rein, Moira, and Ana all from the hero pool for this competitive week. Banning one of the most powerful tanks in Rein and 2 supports when we have so few to pick from in the first place really dramatically changes what is played and what is meta. Also, key characters like Orisa, Bab, Hanzo Mei all came off that play a vital role in this new meta, so let's break down all the winners and losers to let you know exactly what you should be playing this meta patch. All that being said, let's just jump right into it, shall we? So kicking it off with the tanks, let's first talk about the big winners as far as tanking is concerned. Rein is dethroned, so everyone's really wondering what is the shield meta gonna be. It's looking pretty clear that the big 2 winners right now is Orisa and Sigma. Double shield break is back, and as such, Orisa and Sigma are both seeing tons of play. This means getting down your synergy with Orisa pool plus Sigma Rock, Orisa pool plus other ultimates, Sigma ultimate. All these things need to be really clean going forward. If you're looking for a combo that can really help you climb, playing an Orisa Sigma combo can definitely do it because you're going to be dictating every single engagement and you're going to bring an extremely strong baseline to your team. If you play either of these characters, now's the time to climb with them because they're definitely going to be really good going forward. Now, before we move on to still good, let's talk about alterations really quickly. Orisa and Hog is fine. You can definitely shield break with Orisa Hog, and there's no Ana to punish a Hog, which is really important. The problem with Orisa Hog is that Sigma brings more to the table overall with his utility. He combos better with Orisa in general. Orisa Hog can be good, but there's a lot of pressure on the Hog to actually secure kills and guarantee teamfight wins. Now we're gonna move on to the still good section, and still good is definitely still D.Va. D.Va got nerfed from a 3-second booster to a 4-second booster. However, she's still very good, and she can definitely see play in dive and with Orisa. The thing is, she's gonna be less forgiving, so D.Va's at the higher ranks, at the higher end, will definitely be able to get value out of her, but at the lower ranks, you might be better off just playing Sigma with your Orisa instead, or even Hog as well. Now, another character that's still good is definitely Hammond. Hammond still gets a lot of value going forward. I mean, he's extremely powerful as a solo carry tank. He can make lots of space, and due to the map pool, maps like Horizon Lunar Colony, Hammond can get exceptional value booping people off the high ground on attack. He can get exceptional value with his mines, and there's a lot of different utility-based things he can bring to the table. You could even be playing Orisa plus a Hammond, give your team some versatility. Hammond plays the off-roll space creation. You gotta be really careful not to get punished. You gotta know your limits on Hammond, but if you put in the time and effort in Hammond, Hammond is definitely a still good character in this meta, and he can get a lot of value against Sigma and Orisa. Now, as far as still good is concerned, we're going to talk about dive, and dive can still be good on some maps. The big problem with dive right now in general is the fact that Mei is off the ban list, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, but Mei is very good against dive, and she's really hard to dive, and Immortality Field with Baptiste is also a huge problem. Dive is still going to be very good on high ground maps, like Watchpoint Gibraltar. Definitely whip dive out there, Monkey D.Va or even Monkey Hammond, even Hammond D.Va. There's all kinds of different variations, and when dive is good, a lot of what can be played is very different. I'm going to talk about the DPSs next, but characters like Genji, characters like Tracer, these characters are actually going to be more viable when you're playing dive, but keep in mind that dive isn't going to be the best for every single map. Only high ground oriented maps is going to be the de facto best unless you have that perfect synergy that it's going to be pretty hard to replicate in ranked. So before we move on, let's talk about the big loser here, and in my opinion, the big loser is Zarya. So Zarya is still fine. I don't think she's unplayable by any means, but without a Reinhardt, Zarya just doesn't have a natural way to take space and generate energy. Sigma doesn't really do that good of a job as a main tank, and Orisa doesn't take damage very easily. She doesn't push up and take space that enables Zarya. If you're going to play Zarya, I'd highly suggest you pair it with something like a Doomfist so you can find a way to get guaranteed value each and every fight, aggressive-based plays using your bubbles, but ultimately, I don't think Zarya is the best pick right now. That being said, mastering Sigma, Orisa, and Hog can be really daunting, but GameLeap.com has in-depth guides covering everything you need to know to level up your game on these characters. Definitely go check it out. You won't regret it. Now, moving on to the big winners of DPS, we're going to talk about the huge winners, and it's going to be pretty obvious what the winners are, but Hanzo and Mei are the big winners. They both were banned. They were not playable before, but now they're off and they're as strong as ever. Hanzo is still just really powerful. When maps like Volskaya Industries and Junkertown that really favor Hanzo are now in the map pool, Hanzo can bring tons of value to the table. He can contest widows, he can break shields. There's pretty much nothing Hanzo can't do, and if you get a mercy pocket, Hanzo can be pretty much unstoppable. I would definitely suggest whipping out Hanzo. If you're good at Hanzo, if you played him in the past, he's going to be really solid going forward, and he can definitely climb you all the way from low rank to high rank if you put in the time and effort to master him. Now, another winner on the table is definitely Mei. So Mei has a 13-second cooldown now as opposed to a 10-second with her wall, which makes her less powerful. She still is powerful, but you got to make sure every single wall counts. Now, she's not as strong as she was in the past. Rein was a really good character that she punished really easily. He wasn't a slow, methodical pusher. That being said, what you want to be doing with your wall is baiting out Orisa cooldowns. You want to be baiting out accretions, putting pressure on the enemy as you focus down shields. You don't necessarily want to be walling and pushing right into the enemy team. You want to be walling and using it to bait out enemy enemy cooldowns. Very important for you to do. The next thing that's really important for people that play Mei or people that are going to be playing against Mei, now, because of the new change, large characters can fit through one gap in Mei's wall. This means it's so important that if you're up against the Mei, you really need decisive calls when one of your tanks get walled. If your Orisa gets walled, say, left side, focus wall right now. Everyone focuses it, because if you can get a wall piece open, your Orisa can fit through. It doesn't matter how thick she is, she could still get right through the wall. So that's really important for you to understand going forward. That means Mei is actually a lot weaker, because one of the big problems is you would break one part of the wall and your tank still couldn't get through and he would die. But now it's not the case. Now let's move on to another winner, Soldier 76. Soldier 76 just got a big buff from an 8-second cooldown to a 6-second helix cooldown, which really plays into his guerrilla warfare style. Soldier 76 can get picks. He can go on the flank. He can put in pressure into things like Sigma. He can put in tons of pressure into Zen on the backline. He can put in pressure in Baptiste and Immortality Field. Plus, he can fish for kills a lot more with his helix. I don't necessarily think he's as good as some of the best DPS that we're going to talk about in the still good section, but he definitely could solo carry, and he's my #1 pick for lower rank players. If you're in the lower ranks and you're looking for a character to climb, you don't get a lot of resources, you don't get a lot of heals, Soldier 76 is your definite best pick, and I would highly suggest you pick Soldier 76 up. Now, moving on to the still good category, keep in mind that how I do this, even if they're in the winners category, that doesn't mean they're better than the still good category, because winners are only characters that have changed from last week to this week. Still good is characters that are still going to be good, and they were good last meta and they were good the meta before, or whatever. They're still good. So first still good is, in my opinion, Doomfist is going to be really good. Against Double Shield, Doomfist was good in the past. He has his bugs. He's not that consistent, but at the lower ranks especially, and even all the way up climbing through Masters, Doomfist is very good at hard carrying, and against Double Shield, against Mei, Doomfist is very powerful. At Baptiste, Zen, none of these characters have that much game against Doomfist in general, so if you could play around the CC, Doomfist is definitely very good in this meta. You could punish enemy Orisas and enemy Sigmas. Now, let's move on to the other characters that are really still good. McCree is probably still one of the best DPS this meta. McCree is very powerful. You can break shields very well. You can put in pressure on flankers. You can punish Meis. McCree is really good. I would definitely suggest playing McCree. If you've been playing McCree, you can keep playing him, no problem. And then Widowmaker is going to be really good as well on maps with long sightlines. Match like Junkertown, match like Watchpoint, Maroto is going to be very good because of these really long sightlines, especially on something like Watchpoint second. It's really hard for the enemy to dive if you're playing really far back, so Widow can get a lot of value. That being said, be very cautious of dive in general, because if people just are diving you nonstop, you're not going to get as much value. So you need to understand that sometimes it's just better to swap between Widow and McCree, but if you can get value on Widow, definitely play her on long sightline maps. Then moving on to our loser, poor Torb. Torb had his limelight for 1 week, where he's actually pretty good in the meta, but now he's really not that good. There's just better characters to pick. Hanzo does his job better. Mei doesn't care about a Torb. Both these characters counter Torb pretty well, zone him away, can threaten his turret. I would not suggest playing Torb. If you're a Torb one trick, this might be your time to take a week off. I don't really think Torb is that good going forward. Even though he was pretty good in the past, there's tons of other options to choose from, so maybe don't pick Torb. Now, before we get to the support category, which might be the most important because 2 supports were banned, let me talk about this huge change for competitive play that you 100% need to know going forward. In Assault, Payload, Hybrid game modes for competitive, when both teams complete a round of offense and have more than 2 minutes of bank remaining for each team's time bank, then each team's time bank is equally reduced until one of the teams has 2 minutes remaining. Let me give you this example. Let's say my team rolls through and gets 5 minutes and the enemy team rolls through and gets 5 minutes 20. Normally, it would just go right back again where you have that huge time bank to roll through to CP again. That's not how it works anymore. How it works now is my time would go all the way down to 2 minutes, subtracting 3 minutes from my 5 minutes, and the enemy's 520 would subtract 3 minutes as well, going down to 220. So now it would be 2 minutes to 220. This is a really important change because there's not going to be these really long drawn out games, and it's something that you should really keep in mind going forward. Now, enough talking about that. Let's get into the support category, which might be the most important. As far as the support category, the winners are going to be Baptiste. Freshly buffed and off the ban list, Baptiste is a basically must pick. I mean, think about it. As far as characters that can really provide lots of heals, lots of sustain, we don't have more. We don't have On anymore because both of them are banned. Baptiste is very good and he plays really well with the double shield meta, which I think he's enabling more than anything. And the big problem with Bap is Bap doesn't really work that well into the dive, and that's one of the reasons why dive isn't going to see that much play this patch, unless you have a really synergistic team, which I'll talk about in a second, because Baptiste doesn't really enable dive. You don't really have characters that can enable enable dive that well with Ana being on the bench. Now keep in mind, with double shield meta on the table, how well a Baptiste plays is going to be extremely decisive in these fights. Really quick amplification matrices, really smart immortality field uses, and baiting out the enemy's immortality field. Those are going to be the deciding factors of this meta. Really keep that in mind. Baptiste is a carry pick in this meta. He really is. You have to be really tight with your immortality fields, and if you mess one up, you could lose the whole fight for your team. Now, moving on to another big winner, might surprise you, is actually Zen. Zen plays very well into Baptiste. For the exact same reason Zen was bad without Baptiste, he's really good when he's back. Y'all both break shields extremely well. Zen breaks shields very well, and he provides a lot of utility with his ultimate against things like Gravitic Flux and Mei's ultimate. So Zen is definitely very strong. And if you're a Zen player sad about last week how Zen wasn't very good, now's the time to pick up Zen. Zen is definitely a hard carry support going forward. Now let's talk about characters that are still good. Brig is still really decent against dive if the enemies are playing it. However, if you're double shield, I think Zen is overall better than Brig, because Brig might have a hard time triggering Inspire when the enemies are playing pretty far away. Now, Lucio is still going to be solid. Lucio is always solid in ranked, but at the same time, it's the same thing that's true with the Brig for double shield. You have to find a way to get value even into double shield. That means booping enemies into bad positions. That means putting pressure from the high ground. That means DPSing things on the high ground, trying to go for those 1v1s, taking these off angles, these Widows, these Hanzos that take the high ground. Lucio can definitely get a lot of value still, but like I said, I still think the best support combo is Bab Zen, assuming you're playing double shield. If you're not, Lucio's probably just the best support. If you're playing something random, like something like Ball Hog or some random stuff, Lucio's probably just your best bet. Now let's talk about a character that's still kind of good, but she's not as good as the other characters, and it's Mercy. I think Mercy is actually really powerful. Bat Mercy or Lucio Mercy dive might be actually pretty good as long as you have a Hammond, because you don't need that many characters to heal up to max HP. Hammond can kind of take care of himself. Mercy is also extremely good at pocketing the snipers, extremely good at pocketing Ashe, extremely good at pocketing Hanzo and Widowmaker, and these characters are all insanely powerful on Junkertown. If you're not playing a sniper on Junkertown, you're messing up, because it's really just a free win, especially if you have a Mercy pocket. So definitely do that, and I think Mercy is still viable in those situations. And also, Mercy can also damage boost someone like Hanzo in the double shield meta, and a Hanzo can break the shield fast, so she kind of brings some utility in the same way that Zen does. I still think Zen is better, and he's definitely much better with his utility overall, but Mercy can still see some value here and there, and I don't really think that there's any true losers in this meta. The only real true losers right now are people that are Ana and Mora mains, because we're all very sad that you can't play Ana Mora, especially me, because I like playing Ana, and I can't play her. But after watching some in-depth BAP and Zen guides on GameLeap.com, all of a sudden I'm popping off on support and rank. Definitely, if you want to pop off in this meta, get some free SR, make yourself better as a player, go check out GameLeap.com. You won't regret it. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. I hope this has been extremely helpful for you. Keep in mind that I didn't cover every single DPS, because a lot of DPSs are just fine in the meta. They're not really strong or weak, so I didn't really include them here. But if you want to know my specific thoughts on any character in the meta, if you want any clarifications or anything like that, definitely ask me in the comments down below. I'll be replying to every single comment. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and until next time,